Astrid Fernandez. Congratulations on your new film, Sujo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
More of a congratulations being showcased at the Sundance Film Festival this year, coming up really soon. I mean, how do you ladies feel about that?
Well, for us, it's always an achievement just to finish the films that we do, but to have this opportunity to be at Sundance again is just awesome. We feel really, really proud and happy.
So tell us where the original idea came from this time around for Sujo.
Well, it began when we were preparing and writing identifying features. I think that that's a story that we needed also to tell, the story of these young people that rose up in these areas in Mexico that are completely took over by the cartels and the drug violence. So that was something that I felt that was really powerful when we started writing it, that it's like a conversation of our previous film, Identifying Features. And Fernanda says that in a very beautiful way, if you want to jump in.
Well, I think we weren't done with talking and thinking about violence and what's left to these kids, what we have left to the newer generation of young people in Mexico. So I think with Identifying Features, it's like what we were wondering, what conditions lead a young man to commit acts of violence? And with this one, it was the opposite question. How would it be possible for a young man to escape the cycle of violence? And I think that that's the origin of the idea. And Astrid had, from the very beginning, a very clear sense of the characters and the setting. She made a really complex first draft, and from there it became a conversation, shaping or reshaping the characters and trying to finish the story.
What is your both of you? What is your love about this character storytelling? Because your style is all about getting into the mindset of those characters.
Well, I think that's the connection we all have. Well, for us, that's the connection we have with story, more than just storyline. I think when you get the opportunity to be in the shoes of some character, it just gives you the opportunity to feel things that perhaps you feel in your own life, but in a different way. So I think especially with these kind of stories, and in Mexico, which where we have a very terrible humanitarian crisis regarding that. So for us, it's like a tool, getting into the mind of the characters for other people to understand what's happening here.
Now, I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but I'm just curious about like your personal backgrounds for both of you. Were both of you grew up in Mexico in impoverished neighborhoods? Is that how you could actually relate to these type of experiences and these type of characters in your films that you make?
I think we both come from middle-class backgrounds. Astrid in Mexico City and I in Guanajuato. For me, because Guanajuato in that sense is kind of special, at least in my generation, it was a very small town, and it was a community where you could relate to people from all social backgrounds, and for me that was eye-opening, coming from a family. I didn't experience hunger or violence in my childhood, but I lived in very near people that did, and I think Guanajuato has all those contrasts that let you realize that at least for me, my middle class reality was just a small part of a very complex social construction. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's something very interesting, because violence at some point when we were children, it was like something that happened to people that was migrating, people that was far from especially for me, that I'm from Mexico City. But all of that has changed, totally changed. We all have people that was very close to us, that close to us that experience violence in some way. So that's why we really feel like the stories and talking about the reality in Mexico is that important, because that's something that's evolving and it's turning like a reality for all classes, all social classes, basically.
So true, so true. So tell us about this unique location, this small town in, I want to say, isolated rural Mexico. Where did you have this film production?
Well, it's based in the story in an area in Tierra Caliente, in the part of Michoacán, which is one of the states that have more migrants, internal migrants that are living communities that are completely took over by cartels, which is a terrible reality. So we couldn't shoot in those places. It's a little bit of what happened with identifying features. You get this state or this area that you know a lot of things are happening there, but it's very difficult to shoot there. It's almost impossible. So we decided to shoot again in Guanajuato, which is Fernandez's home state. That's a place that we know very well. We've been scouting locations for almost 10 years. So it's a very beautiful place that it's also becoming dangerous. This year, Guanajuato is just one of the I think it's the first state
with homicides in the country.
Homicides in the country. So it's also changing. For us, Sujo will always be probably our last film in Guanajuato, in those areas, because it's also becoming dangerous to shoot there.
So all those buildings, you know, the homes and such, those are all authentic locations you actually picked out.
Almost, we tend to do that, but almost all locations are real except for our main location. In this case, the House of Nemesia was built in a protected area, which we had they were very generous. They let us construct there, but we used all recycled materials and things that immediately after the production we just like I don't know, to remove it. So
and were reused by the community.
For the community.
But I think that gave us like this proximity to the community, give us this sense of realness, but also by building our main location, we got all the advantages of shaping the light, shaping the space. So this realness also felt cinematic, and it was really a home for the actors and the whole crew for almost 7 weeks.
In setting a mood for your films, could you discuss the colorization and the cinematography that you actually use? Because you kind of get a sense to relate to the impoverished settings with through your cinematography and colors.
Yeah, that's something that we work a lot with the cinematographers that we worked on. That's something that also I think that comes from the very story, from the very beginning. But probably I must say, because that's one of those things that Fernanda really, she's always looking at that. She's always saying, turn off that light or move the thing. She's really great with that.
No, I know I'm a pain in the ass for the cinematographers because I'm like really picky with the image. But Jimena is really great, and she's been our friend your friend for 20 years. I've known her for 15 years. So it's like we know each other so well that we can have discussions, even sometimes tough discussions, and then rise above that. And the three of us find what we think is best for the film.
I know usually the joy of indie filmmaking, especially on films like this, they like to use you know, local actors or local cast members. Did you do the same thing with this? And how difficult was it to find two different Sujos?
Well, it was a mix. This film is a mix. Nemesia, Rosalia, some of the cast are actors, are very well-respected actors here in Mexico. And it was difficult to find the young Sujo. I think that was the most difficult part, because Juan Jesus Varela, the young Sujo, he worked with us in identifying features when he was barely 16 years old. So I felt like it was a natural thing to work with him. So we immediately knew that he was going to be Sujo. But the young kid was much more complicated, and we got very lucky that one of our collaborators went to Guanajuato and went to some kindergartens, and she managed to find like a very nice pool of young kids that really wanted to be in the film, kids that were from the community, which makes the whole difference. And it was very, very interesting how Kevin came to be the young Sujo, and we really enjoyed working
Yeah,
with
he's
him.
a very bright kid.
Was it challenging to direct these young kids because they're very young. They're almost a toddler age, but they're a little bit older than toddler age.
Yeah. Hai and Suho were 4. Hai was just a few weeks of being 4. When we met him, he was 3. So it was indeed difficult. Sometimes it was like, oh my God, we'd have horses, dogs, goats, and the children. We felt like it was a circus with too many elements. But in the end, we had Astrid's great with children. I think she's really, really, really great into taking the children into the game of fiction, because it's for them it wasn't only a game. They knew they were playing a part, and that's something natural for children. They're all the time they're playing parts, but Astrid was great into taking them into this game with whole conviction. That was amazing to watch for me.
Now, this isn't the first time you both have worked together. You have a relationship going far back and with different films. Tell us about your your working relationship with each other and why you enjoy doing projects with each other so much.
So we met when we were students still, and I think our collaboration began like we would produce each other for each other, even from short films, and that sense of production was always very creative. When I was producing for Astrid, I was involved in the script, in the editing, and the same back. When we got to identifying features, the collaboration was really it was a co-creation more than a relationship between a director and a producer. We wrote together, and Astrid was for the most part on set when we were shooting, and we edited together. So co-directing now, it feels like it's really renaming a collaboration that has been growing up for a long time.
Tell us about telling these authentic stories from the Mexico side, because I looked into your the background of a lot of your films, because it tells that side, some of the stories on the border in Tijuana and all this kind of stuff. Why do you love telling those type of stories, and would you ever consider telling stories on this side of the border?
Well, for us, it's a privilege to be able to tell stories in Mexico. The reality is really, really difficult. So it's just like a very strange situation that we have such a strong cinema and a lot of filmmakers doing films in Mexico. So we feel it like a privilege. And also for us, it's a way to understand who we are and what it means to be a woman living in Mexico. So that's why we always say that our point of view is very, very, very like the core of what we do. And I think that Fernanda and I, we have discussed a lot doing things somewhere else. I think that there's a lot of common things that we can find in the stories in the other side of the border. And well, I think that's a thing that's going to happen. As you said before, it's so centered in the characters that definitely there's always a bridge for us to want to go and tell the story of a person. So for us, it's just an honor to be able to do that.
Sounds great. And what's up next with both of you working together on another project?
We're finishing a documentary series in Mexico that will premiere in next September. So even though this is the first project that it's premiering as co-directors, that series was like a test of being both on set. So that's something that will happen next. But of course, our focus are always films, and we have 2 films that we are developing, and one in Mexico and one in the US. So that's something that we are preparing.
Wow, this is terrific. Well, Astrid, Fernanda, thank you very much for speaking to us about Sujo. It is a fascinating film. A lot of people will definitely enjoy it, and it feels like a Sundance film, and that's what we love. So thank you very much for speaking to us about the film.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.